take a look at the next item in the webinar today, which is transactions. And it's, I guess for people, might be a little bit of a boring subject, but actually, for me, when I talk to customers, it's around you get to a crossroads when you create a quote or create a requisition in the system. We need to tell the system how it behaves beyond the point where we convert it to a purchase order or a contract, whether that's a sales contract or a rental contract. Basically and fundamentally, the transactions that you create in the system are the building blocks of how those purchase orders, contracts, work orders are processed in the system. And because I mentioned before, we operate the system in some very complex industries. Sometimes no two transactions really follow the same flow. We need flexibility. We need to be able to provide the system to our users that flex in times of need. We have people turning up in the yard and they have a pickup truck and they want to fill that pickup truck up and leave immediately. For that, we'd use a feature called immediate dispatch, which bypasses some of the other processes like mobile apps that you can have configured in the system. It allows the users to streamline the clicks in the system based on the demand and the need that's coming from the customer. And on some items, we may have notice for those. On other occasions, the process might be more thorough, and we may want to use mobile apps to go and pick, scan with a barcode or an RFID, put it onto a truck, confirm when that truck has been loaded safely, and then dispatch that truck out and be able to take photos of the items and be able to collect signatures and time and date stamp, that the entire process flows. If we then have queries come in from, this item didn't turn up, you can go back to the system and say, well, we have a signature for it. Here's the time and date stamp and the geolocation for that. Things like that. This is why I wanted to bring this one up on this webinar. So transactions for me are really, really quite important. And the point is that there are many variables, as I'm sure the people out there watching this webinar today can sympathize with. We have to consider those when we're processing the needs in the system. Let's come back out of the system here and let's head to item transaction here. I'm just going to jump into item transaction just to try and articulate a little bit more of some of the features. I'm kind of in the setup of the system here now. And as you can see, I don't expect everybody to know and understand every single button on here, but you can see we have tick boxes everywhere. And if I traverse across some of these tabs here, you can see there's drop downs with options and there's tick boxes. These are fundamentally, in terms of transactions, these are the building blocks, if you like, of each transaction. And you can have multiple different transactions for work orders, for rental contracts, for purchase orders, for quoting. And they can follow a very dynamic workflow based on your business needs. When we come out and we do discovery with you guys, before you implement the system, these are the things we're getting under the hood of. We're understanding your business. We're understanding how you operate. And based on that discovery, when we go through implementation, these are, the buttons that we tick to make sure the system works exactly how you need it to work when we get to a go live state. And we also have customers that have been on the system for 5, 10, 15, some of them 20, 25 years plus. And businesses change throughout the course of their lifestyle. Yeah, everyone grows, and everyone's mission is to be growing and making more money than they did last year. As businesses grow and change, we often need to be able to change the way the system's operating. Okay, we need to be able to come into those settings and we need to be able to change them is kind of the message there. So just to give you a little bit of a flavor for some of the transactional changes that you can make. As I mentioned, you can have a transaction when you go in to create a rental contract. You can select whether it's a quote or whether it's a contract you're creating, and then you can select whether it's an immediate dispatch that you're creating or whether it's going to flow through workflow like I mentioned, the mobile app. In fact, if I go to my basic details tab here, you can see here I have buttons ticked here to say, do I want to receive a requisition? For any of you guys which are on the webinar today that use JobSite Portal, it's an online shopping catalog. Your users go on there, they shop, and they submit a requisition that lands into the control center in the workflow queue. And we're going on this particular transaction type. It allows me to receive a requisition against that transaction, and it allows me to then convert it into an order, a contract. I have that button turned on. Now you can see under that I have transport planning, an automatic logistics picking turned on. If I use this transaction when I'm converting my requisition to a contract, the system's going to say, you need to use the mobile apps and you need to use the transport planning control center. When I save that document, when I'm finished with it, the next step on is it's going to go and create a logistics document. And then from there, I can then tell the system, do I want the system to just go ahead and create me a picking document, assign it a document reference number and automatically assign it to a picker? Yes, I can turn that on, or I can uncheck that and I can do it manually. Again, really getting under the hood of every business workflow and being able to make those configuration changes down to that minor detail, we can make the system work exactly how you need it to work. We also have a button there for streamlining logistics pickings. We may have a full long-winded process where we pick it on a document. It then goes to the driver's app, as I mentioned, and the driver confirms once the load is secure. And then we hand over to the dispatching app, where as I mentioned, you can take photos, record condition, and take photos. We can streamline that and cut one of those apps out. You can actually reduce the flows in there as well. As you can see, lots and lots of different configurations in the system for that. Some of the other features we've got, things like rent to buy. Do we want to give an option in the system where we rent it, and then maybe after 12 months, the job site says, do you know what, can I just buy it? Or the customer says, can I just buy it off you? There's a button and a flag for that where we can allow the option to sell it whilst it's on rent. Sale or return. There's a checkbox up here. It's unchecked in my system at the minute. The best analogy I can give for this is if you sell the job site 50 hard hats or 50 pairs of boots, and they consume 25 of those. At the end of the project, if there's still 25 hard hats still in their packaging, they can decide if they want to send them back. And you can decide if you're happy to receive them back, or the project just takes them over to the next job. Even buttons like that, they can actually request that they're sent back, and you can issue a credit for them, because you would generally invoice for those things on the first invoice. There's an option for that. Substitute items. If somebody requests a mini excavator and you have a larger excavator, but it does the same job, you can decide in the system whether you want the rental controllers to be able to select substitute items and offer something different to what the job site's asked for. Amendments. Do you want to allow people to amend the document, amend the contract after it's been dispatched, add more items on, change the rates, change the dates, things like that? You can control within transactional maintenance. Same branch processing or multi-branch processing. Do you want to allow the other branches in your network to be able to return your goods from your branch into their network? Allow quick goods receipting, the ability to do fast track goods receipting against items. Immediate invoicing at point of dispatch. Do you want to set up an automated flow where when you dispatch an item, it automatically invoices that project? You don't have to do it manually at the end of the month. Price list updates. You can set a transactional level whether existing contracts have new price lists updated or not. If you get to the end of your financial year and you want to change the pricing across all of your contracts, you have the option then to say, do I want to apply it to the already existing rental contracts, or do I want to just apply it from this date on for new contracts going forward? And then things like damage waivers, we can add and apply features for damage waivers. And then, as I mentioned previously, and we showed you in the work order piece just before, do you want to allow these type of transactions to be able to link through to other third-party transactions like re-rents or third-party POs for work orders? Over the years, we've developed a lot of features, essentially just, working with the industries that we work in have helped us develop these features to help, these industries work well. I could literally spend an entire afternoon going through every single different configuration available to you. I would say if you're managing, different needs of your customers and want to explore where the system can help you transactionally, reach out to me, reach out to your CSM here at Win. We'll happily discuss all of the different features based on your needs. Madeline.
Yeah, Jimmy, I've got a couple more questions from the audience.
Great.
One is, where in the main menu is item transaction found? They know where Control M is to do the search, but aren't sure what menu category it's under.
If I can get this thing to pop off the top of my screen, or get rid of this. At the top of the screen, if I can move this down a little bit. There we go. Under configuration, you can go to item setup, and transaction setup, and then item transaction. It's under the configuration menu, system setup, transaction setup, item transaction. That's where you can find your list of transactions. There's also a cheat, if you don't know. Sorry, Madla, I was just going to mention, because this is something I use a lot in the system. I use Control+M, and then I can just type in item transactions. We covered this off in one of the previous webinars on some of the cheats. Very subjective, this subject, because some people love using Control+M to quickly get to places, but other people say, oh no, I really want to see where it exists in the modules. That's where it is.
Awesome. Thank you. And we have another question. Can certain requisitions go to one employee and another request go to another? For example, skid steers go to person number 1 and mobile office trailers go to person number 2.
In terms of requisition, yes, when we receive a requisition into the control center from, say, the job site portal, you can actually go into the requisition and you can actually assign it. There are features in there. There are options to assign it to a specific user for processing. And I'll be happy to follow up with that person offline and to show them how to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. I will let you continue on.
Perfect. Okay.